How to install Allur Composite deck boards. A stunning low-maintenance alternative to timber decking that eliminates the need to paint and seal, offering the perfect enhancement to any outdoor space. To complete the installation, the following standard woodworking tools are recommended. To achieve the best results, good planning is essential. You should consider the size and orientation of your new deck prior to the install to help determine your subframe requirements. If you're building your decking next to your house, make sure it will sit below the damp-proof course and ensure you aren't going to block any air bricks or drain access. Each subframe is unique and will depend on your requirements and laying pattern. We recommend never exceeding a 300mm gap between your joists. The more complex the deck, the more joists needed to support the boards correctly. A 10mm gap should be left between any walls, fixed objects and joining joists to allow for expansion. Double joists are required where you expect deck boards to meet. 3mm expansion gap should also be left between board joints. Subframes should be designed with an integral fall of 1% to 1.5% minimum for drainage. This should be angled away from the house to allow rainwater to flow away from the building. If you're using composite joists, these are designed to be fixed directly on top of your concrete foundation. Timber joists, such as the one used here, require secure posts in a concrete foundation to fix to. The type of joists you need for the job will depend on the demands of your project. Timber joists have been used here to support challenges such as steps, removable drain access panels and the picture frame outer edge. With the subframe now in place, you can start to plan where your boards are going to sit, marking out where boards will start and end to ensure that you aren't left with any tiny or awkward cuts. Once your area is marked out, begin attaching starter clips to the edge of your framework using the stainless steel screws provided. Securely fixing a starter clip in place at the intersection of each joist or at 300mm centers. It's important to keep in mind where your boards will start and end to ensure the starter clips are placed appropriately to secure each board. With your starter clips now in position, align the grooved channel of the decking boards with the clips and insert the decking into the clips at a slight angle and push firmly into place. Once your first row of deck boards are in position, use our T-clips to fix all subsequent boards to the subframe. Attach a T-clip at every intersection between a board and a joist. Then, secure the clips into place by screwing through the countersunk hole into the joist below, keeping 3mm of slack in the clips to allow for adjustments, leaving the clips to be tightened fully later. Once all T-clips are in place, simply slide the next board in position, checking your boards are lined up correctly as you go. Repeat this process to fix subsequent board rows in position. After every 3 boards, we recommend checking your boards are still lining up, making any adjustments if required, before fully tightening the screws in place. Repeat this process to fix subsequent boards. For this project, we have board breaks splitting the install into 3 parts. If no breaks are required, we would advise you fix each board down the line of your deck before moving to the subsequent row until you have reached the final 2 rows. To create the board breaks within our deck, we're going to run boards perpendicular at each end of the middle section. To get our boards perfectly lined up ready for the 2 board breaks, we safely trim any excess board using a plunge saw, using extraction to keep dust to a minimum. Once each side has been neatly trimmed, the 2 perpendicular boards can be lined up at either end. To secure the areas where the boards meet perpendicular, cut a 6mm section from the lug on the T-clip using a fine hacksaw. The modified T-clip can be used at intersections where the boards meet to fix the boards in place. Secure the modified clips into place by screwing through the countersunk hole into the joist below, again keeping 3mm of slack in the clips to allow for adjustments. Attaching a T-clip at every intersection between a board and a joist before sliding in the next board, fully tightening the screws in place after every 3 boards. Cutting our composite deck boards to size is quick and easy and follows the same approach as timber boards. Simply measure and mark up your board. Then cut to size safely using a chop saw. Always remember to wear your PPE, such as a face mask, goggles and gloves. Place your freshly cut board into position to check it fits. Before placing a T-clip into the gap, ensure you're left with a consistent 3mm expansion gap down the edge of the perpendicular boards. Repeat the process in the same manner as your previous boards to fix in place, as you work your way down the deck, until you're left with the final 2 rows of boards around the whole of your deck area. At this point, the last board can be fitted by fixing starter clips in position, offering the last board in first, and then offering the second board in place and sliding T-clips down the expansion gap and in position. In this instance, we're creating a picture frame effect by using the opposite texture option from our double-sided boards for the last board. As our deck area will end with sets of steps, we're also using our composite starter board, which features a neat bull-nosed finish. However, standard boards can also be used and finished off with our colour-matching corner strips if preferred. The key to a successful picture frame outer edge is all in the planning. How you line up your 45-degree cut boards will make or break the look of your outer edge. It's important to double check your markings and that your board will fit with a 3mm expansion gap at each end. Cutting your 45-degree boards too tightly could result in the boards pushing into each other as they expand over time, compromising your deck. Once you're happy with your setup, begin attaching starter clips to the edge of your framework using the stainless steel screws provided. Once those starter clips are fitted, slide the last board slightly out of the way to allow space for the centre board to be placed in position. Align the groove channel of the decking board with the starter clips and pop in position, placing a T-clip into the gap to ensure you're left with a consistent 3mm expansion gap. With the centre board now in place, return the last board to its original position, again placing a T-clip into the gap to ensure a consistent 3mm expansion gap. Insert a modified T-clip at the intersection where the boards meet in the corner to fix the boards in position. With the picture frame now in place, the second to last board can be offered into the gap, angled slightly to attach the T-clips already in position. Ensure you leave a consistent 3mm expansion gap as you set your boards in line. T-clips can now be slid into the expansion gap and lined up with each joist. Remember to insert a modified T-clip at intersections where the boards will meet perpendicular. Once all clips are in place, the perpendicular board can be dropped into position. Then simply slide your modified T-clips back until they sit in the groove channel of the decking board. Then fully tightening the screws to fix in place. With the centre of the deck now in position, picture frame can be completed, following the same process with starter clips added around the edge of your framework. Carefully marking out your 45-degree corner cuts to include your 3mm for expansion. Cut to size safely using a chop saw. Drop your cut board in place, connecting the groove channel at the front of the starter board to the starter clips. Then, following the same process as earlier, T-clips can now be added into the expansion gap and lined up with each joist before screwing firmly in position. Then simply repeat the process around the rest of your picture frame. Installing decking steps works in much the same way as your main deck, with starter clips added at the intersection of each joist at the front and back. Align the groove channel of the back decking board with the back starter clips and insert the decking into the clips at a slight angle and push firmly into place. Then place the front board by attaching the board to the starter clips at the front face of your step. Apply a little pressure to the front board, lifting it just enough to slide T-clips into the expansion gap and line them up with each joist. Then fully tightening the screws to fix in position. With all the decking down, we're ready to fit the fascia boards. Drill a 3mm pilot hole, keeping 30mm from the end of the fascia. Continue with pilot holes at 300mm intervals along the fascia. Simply line up your fascia board and screw the fascia into place with the coloured matching screws. Repeating the process until all your fascia boards are placed. Then sit back and admire your new long-lasting composite deck.